Hello. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello, Rekha ma'am. Can you hear me?
Ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
It's okay.
Sorry, I was actually I got the Zoom wrong. So got
मैम आप
lost.
कौन से नाम से अच्छा सुबधा शुभंकर भट्टाचार्य के नाम से
I'll just change it. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Varshini, Gaurav, Vinayak, Saransh. I hope it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Okay, so I think you're all going to be appearing for your TOEFL in by the end of November, right? So what we are going to do today is I'll first give you an introduction to the TOEFL pattern, the test pattern, what you are supposed to be doing, and then we will move on to the specific sections. So I'll just share the screen first. So anyone has gone through the TOEFL pattern? No? Okay. So now when we talk about TOEFL, it's basically just an English language test. Unlike SAT, you don't have any math section here. It is just English, but not only written English. That is the only difference between SAT and TOEFL. That in TOEFL you have 4 sections. Now, what is TOEFL actually doing? It's testing your different skills in the usage of English language. So even if you have studied in an English medium school, but your native language is not English, so you have to appear for this test. So it's going to be testing you on your reading, listening, speaking, and writing skills. 4 things. So there are 4 sections. There's a reading section, which has about 30 to 40 questions, 3 to 4 passages from different academic texts, like it will be long passages, not literature, but something which is argumentative. Then you have a listening section, that is listening comprehension. You will be listening to a lecture or a conversation. Now, these lectures and even the conversations will be all campus-based. Say, a student talking to a lecturer, a student talking to a registrar or somebody, some office staff. That way it will be. So here again, you get 28 to 30 questions. Then you have the speaking section. Now in TOEFL, one thing is good that you have 2 sections and then you have a 10 minutes break in the middle. And since it is all computer based, you have an online test. Preferably you would be doing it in the center, unless during COVID they had started the home testing, but still it is preferable to do it at the center, because anything wrong happens, anything goes wrong, there's somebody to correct it, otherwise you'll be struggling with it, right? Okay, next comes the speaking section, which is short, about 17 minutes. It has 4 tasks. We will go through these in details later, but among the 4 tasks, there will be 1 task where you have to speak extempo on any topic. Other tasks will be integrated tasks, that is, you will be listening to something, reading to something, and then answering a question based on that, right? And in writing, again, you have two tasks, that is two essays to write. They are not very long essays, but yes, you have to be organized. One will be integrated essay, that is, you read a particular passage, listen to a lecture on the same topic or something related to that passage, and then you write according to what the question is asking you. And the second one will be a question where you would be expressing your opinion on a particular topic, right? So this is the basic format of the test. Got it? So when you're talking about TOEFL, it's not a pen paper paste test. So everything will be on the computer. So you have to be able to practice typing, right? So if your speed for typing is a little slow, and say you make too many typos, then please start practicing, because in the writing section, you have to really type out, right? Okay, and in the reading and listening section, it will be just either drop downs or clicking the right answer. Now coming to the scoring pattern. Now each of the sections is scored out of 30 and your total score is out of 120, right? Now when we talk about the reading, if you see, if I say there are 30 to 40 questions. Now, why do we talk about a variable number of questions? Because the TOEFL usually has one section which is not scored. Yeah, at least one passage maybe you will get, which is an experimental passage, which will not be scored either in the reading or in the listening. You will not get, say, 40 questions in reading and 39 questions in listening. You may get 30 questions in reading and 39 in listening, or 40 in reading and 28 in listening. So depending upon what, which variables section you get, your scores, but your scores will always be out of, that is, it is scale score is 30, right? Say if you get 28 questions in listening, it will be, and your score out of 28 is say 26, that will be that will be calculated on a scale score to get it out of 30. Similarly, in the speaking and writing sections, your actual scores will be just grades. You will not get 1, 2, 3, 4 till 30, but grades, speaking will be graded out of 4, each, say a total of out of, say, 10 or 8, and writing will be graded out of 5. Each one of them will be graded out of 5, and an average score you get, that then goes into, or a total score you get, and that is scaled to 30, right? So I hope the pattern is clear, because you should know the pattern before you are getting into the test, right? Vinayak? Pattern
Yes,
is
ma'am.
clear? Okay. So now today we'll begin with the reading section. Now when we talk about the reading section, we have about 3 to 4 passages, more or less about 10 questions per passage, but there are different types of questions that come. Yeah. So when we talk about the different passages about, say, you all done SAT, so the passage size will be more or less the same as in SAT, about 700 words, 700 to 800 words maybe, and about 10 questions. Now the questions will be of different types, and the passage will be mostly academic, say it could be social studies, history, science-based, any of those. And it is usually based on some theory, argumentation, or even an event narrative. So depends upon what type of passage you are coming up with, right? And they're all multiple choice. Usually you have 1 raw point, 4 answer choices. In some of the questions, you would also be asked to select, say, 2 answer choices. Now in those questions, if you have 2 answer choices, then you have to remember that unless you get both the choices correct, your answer, you will not get your score. So if a question is for 1 point and you've got one answer correct and the other one wrong, then you don't get any point whatsoever, right? So when we are talking about the question types, you have the vocabulary questions, very similar to the SAT ones, where you are given given the meanings, the options are the meanings of the words, and you have to figure out what fits into the context in the passage, right? Then here one more you have, this is a little different from SAT, sentence simplification question. So a particular sentence would be highlighted for you and options given to you that what is the main point in the sentence, or maybe it is paraphrased for you and asked that, okay, what are the points that the sentence does not cover? Something of that sort. So you, in these types of questions, what you have to do is you have to read. Now, it will not be a very short sentence. It will be about 2-3 lines. So minimum 2 lines or more. So you have to be able to paraphrase a sentence and see which of the options are closest, are covering the entire point that the sentence is trying to tell you, right? Then you have the factual questions, very much like the detailed questions in SAT, where a particular point, your answer is based on a particular point or a particular detail from the passage. Now you have negative fact questions. This is important to note, where the question could be that out of, you are given the options and the question says, which of these is not mentioned in the passage? Or maybe which of these is not the reason for this particular, say, statement. So basically you have to find the false statement. If you miss out reading the question properly, you will get these answers wrong, right? Okay, another one could be inserting a sentence in the appropriate place. So these are similar to the SAT questions where you had to add a sentence or delete a sentence. Then the rhetorical purpose questions, where the question asks you when an information is given and what does the, or why does the author say this? Yeah, or the purpose of a particular fact that has been put in, or purpose of using a particular word or phrase. Then you have the inference questions. These are, I would say, similar. The strategy would be similar to the SAT questions, but the format will be a little different. Now in SAT, you have the inference and command of evidence put together. Here it is just an inference question, like a certain information is given and the question may ask you may ask you something which would be derived from what has been given in the text, right? Then you would have the prose summary question. This is one of the similar to the main idea questions, but it is like prose summary would be like certain, say a set of sentences are given to you as options. And out of those, you have to select the correct options, and maybe 6 options are given to you. You have to select about 4 options and arrange them in the correct order, which would form a summary of the entire passage, right? So you have to be able to figure out what each paragraph is saying or what the entire passage is talking about. And based on that, the summary questions are answered, right? Now coming to the another question is where you have to organizing. So this is also similar, organizing questions. And now these organizing questions are worth about 2 to 3 raw points. They will tell you how many points. But if you have 4 options to choose from, and say you have to actually put in the 4 options from the given, whatever is given to you, and you get 2 correct and 2 wrong, then again, you don't get your points. You have to get all of them correct, right? So these are the different types of questions you will be getting, right? So what is it testing you again? So finding information, basic comprehension. So comprehension skills are tested throughout TOEFL. Each section of TOEFL is testing your comprehension skills, whether it is reading comprehension or listening comprehension. Yeah. And of course, your vocabulary is important because they're not only for the meanings of the words, but also to figure out what the entire sentence or the entire passage is talking about. So paraphrasing is the key, and understanding the questions plus understanding what the options are saying. Yeah. So when you're talking so now the main thing in TOEFL would be practice. As an SAT, again, TOEFL will require a whole lot of practice. Now, before going on to practicing some of the reading passages, there are certain things you need to note down, which would be like how to go about everyone has done SAT. So you know how to deal with a passage even before answering the questions, right? So how do you go about dealing with a passage? Varshini, can you tell me?
We just skim through the passage.
Yeah, you skimmed through the passage and then you would be going to the questions, right? Okay, now there are certain things which in TOEFL are important. As I said, number one, look at the key points. Key words in the question and in the passage are very important. Now, when you have a passage of this size, and in TOEFL, the passages will not have line numbers, but will have paragraph numbers. Yeah, you have to follow the passages paragraph numbers. Certain words are highlighted. Now here, say a certain sentence is highlighted. So you know that this is where you get the meaning of the sentence. What is the main point of this sentence? So now if you look at the questions here, you have quite a few based on vocabulary. Yeah. Then this one, what is the discussion paragraph 1 in the Southern Highlands suggest about Mars? So when you're talking about suggesting about something means inference question, right? Then you have like this one in paragraph 2, why does the author include information? So the rhetoric question, why does the author include information? So these are the rhetoric questions. You will not get the answers directly from the text, but you have to figure out from the text what the answer could be. So, and everything should be based on the information given in the text. Yeah. Now, this is one of the negative questions where you have except. So these words except, not are very important. You must note them down whenever you are coming across these questions. So say, according to paragraph 2, all of the following are true of the outflow channels in Mars except. So here you have to be, now here you will be eliminating which of the answers? All information that is already given or that you can conclude from the paragraph. And something that you cannot conclude or which is where you will say which is not true will be your correct answer. Right? Say this one, all of the following questions about geological features on Mars are answered in paragraph 3 except. So there are certain questions given to you and you have to see that which of these questions are answered. So you can eliminate them. And the ones that you cannot find the answer in the paragraph will be your answer. Right? Now here is an interpretation. According to paragraph 3, images of Mars's surface have been interpreted as support for the idea that. So certain you have to look at your passage. Now here it's particularly paragraph 3. Now one thing good about the TOEFL questions is that they go paragraph wise. So it's not very confusing. You can find your answer according to the paragraph. Now here we come to the highlighted portion. So they will mention the highlighted portion, which of the sentences below best expresses essential information in the highlighted sentence in the passage. So when you're talking about that, you first read the passage, then you will be looking at you will be reading through the options to find which one is covering the main point in the highlighted sentence. Yeah, if something is missing, that will not be your answer. If some extra information is given or some information which is not there in the sentence, then it will not be your answer. So you have to be reading carefully. The TOEFL options can be a little confusing sometimes. If you miss out on a little thing and like you see, most of them, half the answer could be correct, half of it could be wrong. So you want an answer which is completely correct. Then if you look at this question, according to paragraph 4, what do 2003 global surveyor data suggest about Mars? Again, this is an inference question, right? Then again, a meaning question. Now here, this one we were talking about. If you look at this question, it is a sentence placement question or adding a sentence. Now in paragraph, the passage, there is a missing sentence. The paragraph is repeated below, showing the placements A, B, C, D that indicate where the following sentence could be added. So you have to read. Now you have to read your find your reasoning. We will come to this question and how to answer it. I'm just taking you through the question types, the actual question types, so that you know what you are getting into. Now this is one which, if you see, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, 6 answer choices given to you, right? Now, out of these 6 answer choices, your question says, an introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage is provided. Complete the summary by selecting 3 answer choices. When you have to select 3 answer choices out of the 6, first, now this question is worth 2 points. Now, 3 answer choices, they won't be giving you 1.5 for answering 2 right or 1 right. Either it is 2 points or 0, right? Even if you get one of them wrong, or if you get the order wrong, you would get a 0. To get to the 2 points, all your answers need to be correct. Yeah. So here you have the first sentence given to you. You have to select 3 which are correct and would complete this summary. So this is what the question types are, right? Now, coming to how to deal with these questions, right? So in SAT, how did you deal with the questions? Anybody? Saransh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so how would you deal with the questions in SAT? Okay, first tell me, Saransh, you are in the 11th or 12th?
I'm in 12th.
12. So you have written your SAT or you're still to write?
I've written.
You've written. So in SAT, how did you deal with the questions?
First I read the question and then I saw on the passage similar to the question. What is it?
Right. So you look for information in the passage related to the particular question.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay. So you also will be doing something similar. Now, one thing you have to remember is that whenever you are choosing an option, something very important is to figure out for yourself the reason for choosing that particular option. If you can't find a correct reason for choosing the option, then there's something wrong with your answer, right? The reasoning should be correct. Why you are choosing that particular option, and it should be based on information given in the passage, right? So you can go wrong in choosing an answer if you have either misread the question or not taken note of the keywords in the question as well as the options. Now in TOEFL especially, the options can be very close to each other, but there can be one particular keyword which makes it wrong. So you have to read them very, very carefully, right? And there could be like when you are going through the passage, maybe you found you read the entire paragraph, but could not locate the particular reasoning that the question is based on. There also you can go wrong. Yes, when you are going through these questions, try to paraphrase the question and the options so that you get to the correct option, right? So these are things you have to remember: paraphrasing, the keywords, the reading the question carefully, and especially in the negative questions, what is not, that is important. So maybe if you are not very careful and you are in a hurry, you may mark an option which is given in the passage while they are asking you what is not given in the passage, right? So these are the things you have to keep in mind. And yes, the crux is to eliminate. So elimination is the key to getting to your correct answer. And you don't spend time finding your answer. You just read the paragraph, look at the questions, read the question carefully, look at the options, what can be eliminated. You will find that once you have eliminated most of them, you can easily pinpoint the correct answer, right? Okay, now another thing important is your timing. You have 10 questions and more or less you get about, you get a lot of time in TOEFL, of course, about say 15 minutes or so, and so that you can also go back and revise all your answers. Now, since this is not a pen paper based test, one thing you have to remember is that when you are clicking on an option, now presently we don't have that format for the study material, but when you get to the practice test or the mock test, you will be getting that format. You have to click on an answer. After you have clicked on the answer, you have to press submit or next to go on to the next question. After you have pressed next, you cannot go back to the question again. Yes, you can go back to your review, but you cannot go back to the question to answer it again. And that you have to be very careful about. Okay, now everyone is ready to do the passage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you have your material, if, all of you have got your text, you have the book or you have got the PDF? Yes, Kim?
I have the book.
You've got the book. Anyone got if you have got the PDF, or you can use your PDF. If you have the book, then we can start with answering the questions with the help of your book. So now the first thing is to skim through the passage. Now, if you see, this is running water on Mars. So the entire passage will be based on that, right? So you can skim through the passage. How much time will you take to skim through the passage? Anybody? Girl? How much time will you take to skim through the passage?
Like around 25-30 maybe.
25-30? What?
Yeah, minutes.
Minutes to skim through the passage.
Yeah.
The first step is skimming through the passage and not more than 3 minutes to skim through the
Oh
passage.
yeah, sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
Only 3 minutes, not more than that.
Yeah.
So you can take 3 minutes, skim through the passage before we begin with the questions.
Okay.
So if you have your book, you can mark, but since TOEFL is an online exam, when you are working online, you will have the option of highlighting a portion, but You cannot do more than that. So maybe when you're using your book, you can just about underline because and yes, you can take notes on your rough paper. Anyone who's done with skimming can raise your hands. You don't have to really read through the entire passage. You just have to look for the key points so that you know where what is. You can just about mark the keywords, some terms, some phrases, which helps you to locate your answer. Okay. Well, can I have all your videos on, please? So I know whom I'm talking to. It's nice to talk to people, though we are online. Yes, thank you, Kim. Yes, Saransh, Gar, Varshini, can you please have your videos on? Thank you. Vinayak, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Okay, so now you went through the passage. What was it about? So what is the main idea of the passage? Niranjan, what did you find the main idea of the passage to be? Yes, Niranjan, you can unmute yourself and answer. Niranjan, you are having any problem?
No, ma'am. Actually, I'm reading the passage right.
You're still reading the passage. Okay, you're not supposed to be reading the entire passage word to
Yeah,
word.
ma'am.
So what is it that you are supposed to do? Say you have the first paragraph. Now it says photographic evidence suggests something. Liquid water once existed in great quantity. So you read the first sentence, you get an idea of what that particular paragraph is going to be talking about. Now every paragraph has a topic sentence. The first sentence of the paragraph gives you an idea of what the paragraph is about, right? So now instead of spending your time reading the entire passage, you just read the topic sentence and then you go on to mark a few of the key points that you find. Say you found runoff channels. So there would be something about two types of flow features, runoff channels, outflow channels. So this paragraph is going to talk about the two things. Now, when you come to the second paragraph, outflow channels are relics. So this is talking about outflow channels. Yeah, probably relics of catastrophic flooding on Mars. So some evidence about water you get to know. Yeah. Now, if you read the last one, now here, if you see the teardrop islands, some random, you can just skimming through is not reading each and every sentence. Skimming through means just getting an idea of what it is about, getting to some keywords or key points and leaving it there, right? Now, flooding shaped the outflow channels. Some details on that. Now, the third sentence, some scientists speculate that Mars had extended early period during which rivers, lakes were there, right? Then it goes on, maybe what else catches your attention in this? Once flowed into large body of water. Yeah. So a large open expanse of water. So this paragraph is dealing with existence of a large amount of water, right? Computer generated view that's talking about of the Martian North Polar region. Then has been an ancient ocean covering much of northern lowlands. So northern lowlands. Then the Hellas Basin, something about the Hellas Basin. You don't need to really read everything in the first go. You will be dealing with the questions. You get to the details when you are dealing with the questions. These ideas remain controversial. So the ideas that are there in the previous paragraph, right? Then you have but detractors maintain. That is, some people have different some other ideas. Furthermore, Mars Global Surveyor data. So this would be about some information from that. Now, aside from small gullies found since 2000, then there's like there was Mars today, an amount of water, yet even setting aside unproven hints, then it goes on to that is the answer may be that virtually all water on Mars is now locked in permafrost. So permafrost may be an important point for you, right? So we came across quite a few points. What were they? The passage is talking about evidence that water existed in Mars. Different types of evidence, different theories, different hypotheses. So now we come to the questions. First one says the word merge in the passage is closest in meaning to. Now you can answer this.
Combine.
Combine.
Combine. Now, if you see, what can you eliminate? First, we go back to the where this word is. It is highlighted for you, first paragraph. So you read the sentence. These flow features are extensive systems, sometimes hundreds of kilometers in total length, of interconnecting twisting channels that seem to merge into larger, wider channels. Yeah. So if they're merging into larger, wider channels, you would obviously eliminate expand. separate. It is not talking about separating. Straightening out, also eliminated. Combine is your answer, right? Okay, question number 2. What does the discussion in paragraph 1 of runoff channels in the Southern Highlands suggest about Mars? Now here in this question, what is your key word? The
Runoff.
discussion suggests of the
Runoff
runoff channels in the Southern Highlands. Yeah, we have to find information on this. So now here it says the atmosphere of Mars was once thinner. Large amounts of rain once fell on parts of Mars. So the keyword in this is atmosphere. Second option talks about rain. Third option talks about river systems were extensive. D says the rivers of Mars began to dry up 4 billion years ago. Now we have to see which of these we can infer or from the, which paragraph is this? Paragraph 1. So now what you do is you read paragraph 1. First we just skim through. Now we are going to scan through the paragraph, right? So when you are scanning through the paragraph, what are you doing? You're reading a little in detail. So now what is it that you are looking for? What are you looking for? Abude, can you tell me what are you looking for in this paragraph based on the question?
We are looking for the runoff channel about the Mars.
Runoff
Of
channels,
the Mars.
Southern
Yeah.
Highlands.
Of the, yeah.
So here it says photographic evidence suggests that liquid water once existed in great quantity on the surface of Mars, right? So that is not so important for us. Then the two types of channels, runoff and outflow. Then we come to the runoff channels over here. Runoff channels are found in the Southern Highlands. Yeah. What do the questions say? Southern Highlands. Yeah. These flow features are extensive systems, sometimes hundreds of kilometers in total length. So extensive systems, that is a key word we find, of interconnecting twisting channels seem to merge into larger, wider channels. Bear strong resemblance to the river system on Earth. Geologists think that they are dried up beds of long gone rivers that once carried rainfall. Yeah. Which from the mountains down to the valleys. Now, runoff channels on Mars speak of a time 4 billion years ago when the atmosphere was thicker, surface warmer, and liquid water widespread. So this is something important. Yeah. Now we've got the information from the paragraph. We go back to the question. What can you eliminate? Is it talking about atmosphere?
Eliminated. Yeah.
No,
It's
right?
talking about it was
Large
thick.
amounts of rain once fell on Mars. It talks about that, but not really. It talks about existence of water, right? But does it give an entire answer? Let's look at the others. River system on Mars were once more extensive than Earth's.
There is no comparison given between Earth and Mars.
So it talks about large amounts of rain. Yes, we keep that. If we do get a better answer, we'll go with that. But river systems were once more extensive than Earth's. That's not the point. It is just giving a comparison to tell you what the river systems were like. But they don't say it was more extensive than. Now, the rivers of Mars began to dry up 4 billion years ago. Does it say so? To confirm, you can go back to your paragraph. 4 billion year runoff channels, 4 billion, speak of a time 4 billion years ago when the atmosphere was thicker, surface warmer, liquid water widespread. So 4 billion years ago is not connected to dried up, right? But the rest of the paragraph is, it talks about the Earth. Geologists think that they are dried up beds of long time rivers, yeah, which once carried rainfall on Mars. Now we can conclude that there was a lot of rainfall in Mars once upon a time, right? And when you're talking about 4 billion years ago, can we connect it to rivers drying up? Not really, right? 4 billion years ago is talking about other things. So if we have eliminated A, C, and D, we come to B as our answer, right? So now don't get misled by, okay, 4 billion years ago it said there were rivers, but does it really say they were dried up? But 4 billion years ago, they say that the atmosphere was thicker, surface warmer, and liquid water widespread. They don't say rivers were dried up 4 billion years ago. Got it? Okay, now the next question. The word relics in the passage is closest in meaning to. So you go back to looking for relics. You have the first line in the second paragraph. So what did it say? Outflow channels are probably relics of a catastrophic flooding on Mars long ago. So if now in the vocabulary question, what is the best thing to do is create a blank in place of the word. Fill it in with your own words, own word or phrase, whatever comes to your mind. Then look for the option which is closest to that. So suppose relics, instead of relics, you were to look for some other word. Outflow channels were probably dash of catastrophic flooding on Mars long ago. So either proof or some remnants of, yeah. So when you're talking about relics, what's your answer then? Remains. So it would, it could be sites, but it doesn't fit into the particular sentence. It doesn't give the meaning of the sentence. Now the word you choose should not change the meaning of the sentence. That you have to be very careful about. So requirements and sources are eliminated anyway. Now coming to sites and remains, sites we will not say because remains would be better. We are looking for something which is similar to relics, right? So similar to relics will not be sites, it will be remains. Okay, now the word miniature in the passage. So when you're talking about miniatures in the same paragraph, the onrushing water arising from these flash floods likely also formed the odd teardrop islands, resembling the miniature version seen in the wet sand of our beaches at low tide. Right? So there's a comparison. So what will be your answer? That's pretty easy. We can eliminate temporary, multiple, and familiar. Well, if it's small, and miniature means small. Right? So the vocabulary questions in TOEFL are not very difficult. They don't go too deep, but yes, you have to get to the correct meaning. Okay, now here, number 5. In paragraph 2, why does the author include information that 105 tons of water flow through the Amazon River per second? You can go through the options and mark the keywords in the options first before going back to the paragraph. It says to emphasize the great size of the volume of water that seems to have flowed through Mars outflow channels, to indicate data used by scientists to estimate how long ago Mars outflow channels were formed, to argue, now these are the key words that you have to keep in mind. To argue that flash floods on Mars have been powerful enough to cause tear-shaped islands. And to argue that, again, to argue that the force of flood waters on Mars was powerful enough to shape the northern volcanic plains. Right? So now we have to look for 105 tons of water outflow, and what is the intention of including that? Getting back to the paragraph, here you have 105 tons per second. Now you have to read the context to get to the answer, right? Now this is, you can read from the previous sentence. On rushing water arising, we read this already. It forms teardrop shapes with teardrop shaped islands resembling miniature versions. Then it says that have been found in plains close to the ends of the outflow channels. Judging from the width and depth of the channels, flow rates must have been truly enormous, right? Perhaps as much as 100 times greater than, 100 times greater than the 105 tons per second carried by Great Amazon River. Now we know that the Amazon River has a lot of volume of water, right? It is comparing to the Amazon River. Now flooding shaped the outflow channels approximately 3 billion years ago. That is not important to this context. So what is the answer that could be, what is the option that could answer our question? It says 105 tons per second carried by the Amazon River. And before that we find there was the flow rates must have been truly enormous, right? That is what the author wants to show us. So getting to the options, what can you eliminate? Now, the A says to emphasize the great size of volume of water that seems to have flowed. That probably is our answer. Enormous amount of water. To indicate data used by scientists, is it talking about data used by scientists? No, right? So eliminate. To argue that flash floods on Mars have been powerful, is it talking about flash floods? It isn't. To argue that force of flood waters on Mars was powerful enough to shape the northern volcanic plains. It is not talking about northern volcanic plains here. So your only correct answer is A. Right? Got it? Your reasoning has to be correct. Why a certain information has been given and the reasoning behind it, eliminating the wrong answer. Okay. Now, let me see if you get the answer to this one. Number 6. According to paragraph 2, all of the following are true of the outflow channels of on Mars except. So we just went through paragraph 2. Right? So let's go to the options. They formed at around the same time that volcanic activity was occurring on the northern plains. Is it talking about that? Now here we have to see what is the question asking you? Which of the following are true except? So we have to see what is not really mentioned. Right? They are formed around the same time as the volcanic activity was occurring in the northern plains. We have to see if that is given. Volcanic activity in northern plains. They are found only on certain parts of the Martian surface. They sometimes empty onto what appear to have been wet sands of tidal beaches. They are thought to have carried water northward from the equatorial regions. Now, which of these have been mentioned? Those we have to eliminate. So to confirm, we go back to the paragraph. Now, your first option, you can look at your book. First option was they formed at around the same time that volcanic activity was occurring on the northern plains. Does it talk about that? Yes, Varshini, do you get that point in the paragraph?
Yes, ma'am. It's
So
all
what
it
is,
does talk about.
yeah, it talks about that, right? So we can eliminate. They are found only in certain parts of the Martian surface. They
Yeah.
appear in equatorial regions, that means only certain parts, right? So we eliminate. They sometimes empty into what appear to have once been the wet sands of tidal beaches. Now,
I think
about this Mars, it says wet sand of our tidal beaches, of our beaches, that is on Earth. It is not talking about the beaches on Mars, right? It's talking about beaches on Earth. So this could be our answer. And D says they are thought to have carried water northward from the equatorial regions. Does it say that?
yes.
Then volcanic plains are formed, outflow channels, okay, draining from the southern highlands into the northern plains. So it carried northward. So the only thing that is not mentioned in this paragraph, or that the information that is not there would be here. What is the information that is not there in the paragraph? That is not
C.
true. Not true.
C.
C, right? So when they talk about tidal beaches, they're talking about the wet sands of tidal beaches on Earth, not on Mars. Okay. Okay. Number 7. Can you answer this? All of the following questions about geological features on Mars are answered in paragraph 3, except. So this is about paragraph 3. Have you gone through paragraph 3? Not really, right? Okay. So what now the key point here is the questions of the geological features. What does it talk about? So we get back to paragraph 3. This is your paragraph 3. Go through it carefully and see what it is talking about. Just mark the points that are available in paragraph 3. So So what is the third paragraph talking about? The points you get is that during the early period, rivers, lakes, and oceans adorned. 2003. So there's evidence to show 2003 Mars Global Surveyor image shows what may be a delta, a fan-shaped network of channels, and where a river once flowed. There's evidence of a river. Lake filling a crater in the southern highlands. Then it talks about data provide evidence for large open expanse of water on the early Martian surface. Then they talk about the computer generated view of the northern polar region, which has something like an ancient ocean covering much of the northern lowlands. Then it talks about the Hellas Basin, which is say 3,000 kilometers across and 9 kilometers below the basin's rim, where there could be an ancient Martian sea. So with this information, let's get back to the question. So here they talk about geological features on Mars are answered in paragraph except. So what is not mentioned in the paragraph? What are some regions of Mars that may have been covered with an ocean? What is the question talking about? It is talking about the regions which may have been covered, right? So that will not be the answer. Where do mission scientists believe that the river forming the delta emptied? So does it talk about where the river forming the delta emptied? Yeah, it does talk about, yeah. So that's also not an answer. Approximately how many craters on Mars do mission scientists believe may once have been lakes filled with water? So how many craters? Does it talk about how many craters?
No, ma'am.
Right? So this could be an answer. We still look at D. During what period of Mars's history do some scientists think it may have had large bodies of water? It does talk about which period, right? So early Martian surface or the once flowed into a large body. So that is also not an answer. So the only answer is D, sorry, C. So everything else is given in the paragraph except C. Okay, now here we have another question here. Answer question number 8. According, this is also paragraph 3, which we just read. According to paragraph 3, images of Mars's surface have been interpreted as support for the idea that. Support for the idea that. So this is more or less, if you see, this is the main idea of the paragraph. So you'll be looking for an answer which gives you something that the entire paragraph is talking about. So the polar regions of Mars were once more extensive than they are now. Do we get that? Right? Anyone? Yes or no? If you look at the paragraph, does it say something of the polar regions were more expensive? The North Polar regions show the extent of what they may have been an ancient ocean, covering much of the northern lowlands. So the North Polar region could have been more extensive, right? We can infer. Now coming to the next option. The large part of northern lowlands may once have been underwater. But the polar regions were once more extensive than they are now. Can we say that does it compare to what they are now? Yes, Saransh? I'm talking about option A. Does the paragraph compare to what they are now?
No, ma'am.
No, yeah, we don't get clarity on that. Okay, so we eliminate A. Now your question is, according to paragraph 3, the Mars's surface have been interpreted as support for which idea? So it doesn't really support this idea. Okay, B says a large part of the northern lowlands may once have been underwater. Do you get any evidence about that? Northern lowlands may once have been underwater. Yes, Vinayak? Do you get evidence for option B?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Third last line of the third paragraph.
Now, deltas were once a common feature of the Martian landscape. Deltas were a common feature of Martian landscape. Do we get that from the paragraph?
I don't think they told that it's common.
Not really. Yeah, they didn't say deltas were there, but they don't say it is a common feature. So we eliminate C. The shape of the Hellas basin has changed considerably over time. Does it talk about the basin changing over time?
No, ma'am.
No.
Nothing about change.
Right? Nothing about changing. So B is your answer, where it talks about northern lowlands being underwater, because it says it would have been a large expanse of sea. Okay, now this is again paragraph 3. What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about liquid water on Mars? This is the key to your answer. So you can read through these. If there's any doubt, you can go back to the paragraph and come up with your answers. And remember, it is what can be inferred from the paragraph. So it may not be stated explicitly, but you have to be able to figure out what implies, whether this implies or not. So mark the key words in your options to get to the answer.
I think it's C.
Hmm?
I think it's C.
C. Okay. Anybody with any other answer? So you say it is C. Yes, Saransh, what's your answer? Please have your videos on. So I know I'm not talking to just a color blob, but I'm talking to somebody.
And there is some problem with my device.
Some problem. Can't
Yes,
have
I got disconnected earlier.
Okay. Okay, so what's your answer, Saransh? You have to be able to analyze properly in this question.
I've not got the answer right now.
Not got the answer. Okay, figure it out. Abudai,
Ma'am, I'm confused between A and C.
between A and C.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else with the answer? Yes, Nilanjan, do you have the answer to this question?
Ma'am, C1.
C.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I think most of you are either C or A or C. And some of you have not got the answer. Girl, have you got the answer?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your answer?
Ma'am, I think it's B.
You think it's B?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We have A, B, C. Who else is there? Some people have. Varshini?
Ma'am, I think it's B or A.
You also think it's B. B or C?
No, B or A.
B or A. Okay, between B or A. So clearly we have a little confusion here. Let's see what the answer could be. Now it says, what can be inferred from the paragraph about liquid water on Mars? Yeah. So whether there is liquid water or not, what does it say about liquid water? Now we get back to the paragraph. What does it say? This is paragraph 3, right? Now it says some scientists speculate that Mars may have enjoyed an extent of early period during which rivers, lakes, etc. adorned its surface. Then surveyor image shows what mission specialists think of a delta, fan-shaped and sediments where a river once flowed into a large body of water. lake-filling crater highlands. Other researchers even go further, saying that data provide evidence for a large open expanse of water on early Martian surface. Yeah, early Martian surface. So this talks about, sorry. This talks about early Martian surface. A computer-generated view of the Martian North Polar region shows the extent of what may have been ancient ocean. It says may have been. Covering now the Hellas Basin is a candidate, another Martian ocean across has a flow that lies 9 kilometers below the basin's rim, is another candidate for an ancient Martian sea. So quite confusing, right? Now let's see what we can eliminate. Okay, this is question number 9. Now we are talking about what can we infer about liquid water on Mars. A says if ancient oceans ever existed on Mars's surface, it is likely that the water in them has evaporated by now. So does it really talk about water evaporated? Does the paragraph say that water has evaporated? There was the expanse, everything they talk about. But do they say has evaporated? Not very clear, right? B says, if there is any liquid water at all on Mars's surface, its quantity is much smaller than the amount that is likely existed there in the past. It says, if there is any liquid water. Now your question is about liquid water. So now this, can we say this? We're not really sure. It could have very small. Now they're not really talking about water existing right now, but could be a possibility. Now, small scale gullies on Mars provide convincing evidence that liquid water existed on Mars. Is it talking about small scale gullies anywhere in the paragraph? Go back to the paragraph. Do you find small scale gullies? It talks about large open expanse, deltas, fan-shaped network of channels, sediments once flowed into large water bodies, large basins, then extent of what may have been an ancient ocean covering much of the northern island. So it doesn't really say something about gullies.
Man, the fan-shaped channels.
Fan-shaped channels, but it says small scale gullies. Everything about the paragraph is on a large scale. Right? Now, and D says the small amount of water vapor in the Martian atmosphere suggests that there has never been liquid water on Mars. And it doesn't ever say never been liquid water on Mars. So clearly we can eliminate D. Right? Now, if ancient oceans ever existed, it is likely that the water in them has evaporated by now. Right? So water has evaporated, we know, but what is it talking about in liquid water? Right? So now small scale gullies we will not go with because it's talking about all large scale things. So what can we, now we have A and B left. What can we infer? If ancient oceans ever existed on Mars's surface, it is likely that the water has evaporated by now. Does it talk about evaporation of water? Here your keyword is evaporated. Does it say water has evaporated? Can we say that?
No.
Ma'am,
Right?
but indirectly it is saying that the water on Mars is very less or near to zero, like so in that way we can say it's
even if it exists, and the next one says, if there is any liquid water at all on Mars, on Mars's surface today, its quantity is much smaller than the amount that are likely existed there in the past. So one thing we know that in the past there was a lot of water, right? So this point is valid. Now coming to comparing between these two, what is more likely to be an answer? Now your question says, what can be inferred about liquid water? Now it's A says if oceans ever existed on Mars, it is likely that the water in them has evaporated. Now the paragraph, if you see, is clearly saying that the oceans did exist at some point of time, right? So we can we say that if they ever existed? Now, other than that, it is suggesting existence of water on a large scale at some point of time. Now, we cannot say that the water has evaporated or it has gone underground or it has flown up somewhere or has dried up because there was no rainfall. That is something, can we infer that water has evaporated? We cannot infer for sure, right? Now, based on what has been said, what is it out of these two, which can we say for, like, we can still say that this can be an answer? Because we have no evidence that the water has evaporated. But this is, now if you look at B, this is a hypothetical situation. If there is any liquid water at all today, its quantity is much smaller than the amount that existed in the past. This we can still say in a hypothetical situation, right? Here it says it has evaporated, that is for sure. So can we infer that for sure it has evaporated?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So going by the options and reasoning out, we can eliminate A and we can keep B, because B is not saying that it is so, but it is most like, or it is like if there is. So that's an hypothetical situation. So we can go with B. So this is a little confusing. These are the questions where you have to be able to analyze deep, right? Okay, now if you find in this particular passage or the passages for practice, we have extra questions so that we can cover all the types of questions. So this is basically for practice. So don't go by that, okay, only 10 questions are supposed to be there. No, we have more questions so that we can cover all of them. Okay, now number 10, it says, which of the sentences below best expresses the essential information in the highlighted sentence in the passage? So essential information in the highlighted sentence in the passage. Incorrect choices may change the meaning in important ways or leave out essential information. So what is the highlighted sentence? That's in paragraph 4. Now to get an idea of what the sentence is about, we go into the context also. So you can read the paragraph, the previous lines in the paragraph, or the previous sentence. These ideas remain controversial. That refers to the ideas that we came across in paragraph 3. Proponents point to features such as terraced beaches shown in one image, which could conceivably have been left behind as a lake or ocean evaporated and the shoreline receded. But detractors maintain that the terraces could also have been created by geological activity, perhaps related to the geological forces that depressed the northern hemisphere far below the level of the south, in which case they have nothing to do with, nothing whatever to do with Martian water. Yeah. So what is this particular sentence talking about? Now, there's another theory that the people who don't believe that there was water on Mars, according to them, all these depressions in the northern hemisphere which is far below the level of the south, is due to geological activity, nothing to do with water. Right? That is the main point in this sentence. So now we get back to the question to see what our answer should be. So more or less, it should be a paraphrase of the sentence, keeping the main point intact. So what would be the answer to number 10? Look at the keywords in the options and see which of them answers your question. Read through all of them. Yes, what could be your answer? Anybody? Yes, quick, come up with your answers.
B, option B.
Option B, okay. Anybody with any other answer? One, Varshini,
Ma'am, B.
B,
Yeah.
okay. So anybody thinks there is some other answer should be correct? No one? Would there be any other answer that is correct? No? So why did you choose B and eliminate the others? Who can tell me? Who's going to tell me? Come on. Nilanjan?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what's your answer?
Ma'am, the B1 only.
One. Okay. So why did you eliminate A, C, and D?
Ma'am, because I thought that B is the most appropriate one from all.
So was there some information in the others which was incorrect? If B is most appropriate, there must be something wrong in the others.
Ma'am, in A, like in paragraph 4, there is nowhere given that due to geological activity, the is responsible for the
Responsible
water.
for water, right?
Yeah, so it's not given in paragraph 4, so we'll eliminate it.
Okay. What about C? Terraces may be related to geological forces in the northern hemisphere rather than Martian water in the south. So that is something which is not given. Yeah, not related to the sentence. And D says that northern hemisphere geological forces depress the northern hemisphere far below the level of the south. That is also not what the sentence is talking about. So B is your answer. Okay, now coming to 11. According to paragraph 4, what do 2003 global surveyor data suggest about Mars? So according to paragraph 4, what do we get? Right? So we get back to paragraph 4, specific to what the global surveyor data said. Furthermore, Mars global surveyor data released in 2000 seem to indicate that the Martian surface contains too few carbonate rock layers, layers containing compounds of carbon and oxygen that should have been formed in abundance in an ancient ocean. Their absence supposes a picture of a cold, dry Mars that never experienced extended mild period required to form lakes and oceans. Right? So what does it say? It never had those carbonate layers that could have formed lakes and oceans. So coming back to the answer to the question, sorry. So what do the global surveyor data suggest about Mars? What will be your answer? Ancient oceans contained only small amounts of carbon. It says ancient oceans contained. In fact, they're saying that the oceans were not there. Climate of Mars may not have been suitable for the formation of large bodies of water. That could be not suitable. Liquid water may have existed on some parts. It doesn't talk about liquid water. Ancient oceans that formed on Mars dried up during the periods of cold. So it doesn't say that there were any ancient oceans, right? So here your answer is B, that it was not suitable because it clearly says that the carbon layers that should have been there were not formed. Okay, the word hints in the passage is closes in meaning too. Hints, where do you find hints? In the last paragraph?
Yeah.
Yet, even setting aside the unproven hints of ancient oceans, extent of the outflow channels,
A will be the answer.
volume of water existed on Mars in the past, right? Hints would be
A.
Clues, right? Features, arguments, effects, anyway would be eliminated. Okay, now coming to question number 13, we'll just take about 3 minutes more. Here, these landscape features differ from runoff channels in a number of ways. Now we have to see where do we place these. Now when you are talking about sentence placement or adding a sentence, what do you have to look at? The connecting words and the information. Now it's talking about runoff channels, and these landscape features differ from runoff channels. So what would the previous sentence be talking about? Some features that would be differing, right? Now, if you look at the placement positions, outflow channels are probably relics of catastrophic flooding on Mars long ago. They appear only in equatorial regions and generally do not form network. Instead, they are probably paths taken by huge volumes of water. The onrushing water arising. So now if you see what is connected over here, are these sentences connected in some way? Anybody? Then it says the onrushing water arising from these flash floods likely also formed. Now, these flash floods are talked about in the previous sentence. They are probably paths taken by huge volumes of water. It connects. Now, our beach resembling miniature versions, judging from the width and depth of the channels, the flow rates must have been enormous. Yeah. So where do we place these landscape features differ from runoff channels in a number of ways? Anybody? Solange, where would you place this sentence? If you see, this talks about that these landscape features differ from runoff channels. Now, runoff channels would be different from what the first sentence talks about outflow channels. Outflow channels are probably relics of catastrophic flooding on Mars long ago. Now comes, these landscape features differ from runoff channels in a number of ways. Now, the whole paragraph is describing different features of these outflow channels. Got it? So where would you place it? You would place it here at A to show that these are different, because the rest of the paragraph is giving details about the features. So what's your option? What's your answer? It is option E. Did you get the reasoning? Yes, I want responses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now coming to the last question, where we are talking about summary, right? Now the sentences will give a brief summary of the passage. Now, the first sentence is, there is much debate concerning whether Mars once had water, right? Now, we have gone through the entire passage. Now, we have to choose only 3 options. Now, the 3 options should summarize the entire passage. Now, one thing you have to remember is that when you're choosing an option, the entire point should be valid. It shouldn't be that it is half the answer or half of it is true, half of it is not true. So out of these 6, which ones would you choose? And which
One can be C.
rather, which ones would you eliminate?
One can be C.
One can be C, okay.
Then we will eliminate F because in the passage there is nowhere given that there is a frozen water beneath the surface of the planet.
So you are
So we
eliminating
will eliminate F.
F.
Yeah,
F you are
there is
eliminating.
no evidence given that there is a frozen water beneath the surface.
Look at the last paragraph. Paragraph number 5. What does it say? Because actually we didn't do a question. We can go to the detail. It says, the answer may be that virtually all of the water on Mars is now locked in the permafrost layer under the surface, with more contained in the planet's polar caps. So that is a possibility, right? So permafrost means locked under the surface. It is frozen state. So coming to the options, it says there is very little evidence of liquid water on Mars today. And it is assumed that all the water that once existed on the planet is frozen beneath its surface. So that is a possibility they are talking about, permafrost, right? So F could be. Okay, so what else can you choose? So would you take A? Various types of images have been used to demonstrate the most Martian surface contains evidence of flowing water. No, right? Water once existed. Does it have evidence of flowing water right now? B says runoff and outflow channels apparently carried higher volume of water and formed more extensive networks than do Earth's river systems. Now that is just a comparison analogy to show something, but not, it doesn't really give us a summary or the main point. So we will not take B. So we've taken C, we've taken F. What else? What can we eliminate? Although some researchers claim that Mars may once have had oceans, others dispute this, pointing to an absence of evidence or offering alternate interpretations. Did we come up with alternate interpretations of evidence? The detractors said that the geological features were responsible for the depressions. Could be, right? Okay, let's look at E. Can we eliminate E? While numerous gullies have been discovered on Mars since 2000, many astronomers dismiss the evidence that Mars once had liquid water. Do they dismiss astronomers?
No.
They don't dismiss, right? So E can be eliminated. So we can go with D, right? So we have C, D, and F. Now your task is to arrange them in the proper order to get a summary. So what would be the proper order? What comes first? What comes next? Now, F we can say comes last, right? It was in the last paragraph. Now, alternate interpretations was where we found alternate interpretations in the 4th paragraph. And we found the runoff channels in the 2nd paragraph, or the 1st paragraph rather. So your order also would be C, D, and F, right? So this is our first lesson. Now for practice, you will be doing the others. So your homework would be TR2, you will do this passage, and TR3, right? So that's it for today. And any doubts? So when you are answering the questions, whatever your doubts are, write them down so that we can discuss your doubts and get to the correct answer and the correct reasoning for those. Okay. So any doubts as of now? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So we can sign off for today. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Welcome.
you.